Hi, everyone. Welcome back to From High Heels to Happy Feels. I'm Stephanie
And I'm Natalie.
with Immersive Spirit. And last week we got a little wound up. This week we're going to ask another debate question, but we're avoiding all the hot topics of the everyday realm. And we're going to talk about if you are using tools versus like your intuition in making, is using tarot, astrology, or tools avoidance, or is it alignment with your path? And there's a couple of debatable sides about it, and we are going to just jump right in. So, Natalie, give me first impressions when I ask you if you're using tools, or, do you think using tools makes it so that you're avoiding aligning with your purpose?
No. So, like, the reason I use tools is to validate what I'm already thinking. But I know that there's people out there that are probably a little bit codependent on their tools. And
Right.
you know that I think is a problem because I don't think like anybody should go to their tools for every answer, and like you and I do the card of the day or we do the rune of we do the divination of the day.
Yep.
And it's more to give people like the energy or things they can do. It's not specifically answering any questions. It's not like you wouldn't go to a psychic like us every day. You shouldn't be reliant on your tools to give you an answer like that every day. Like, I don't know what I don't know if I'm saying it
No, but
right.
I get you. And it's like, and I hope you're not going to a psychic every day because wow, that would be
That'd be
incredibly
expensive.
costly. Yeah. Um, and maybe they should be pushing back a little bit too if they were being a little more ethical about it, about
Well, right. Any
practice,
psychic would
but
be like,
that's
no,
another
we're not doing
conversation.
that.
But yeah, I agree because it's like I love astrology and we both do. And you think about even today being a new moon in Aries, we had a partial solar eclipse this morning. We're definitely feeling that energy for sure. Excuse me, but it is a relatable thing and it helps me align with just kind of where I'm doing my shadow work or where I'm doing my journaling or whatever it is. And I love our tools. I
I
love,
think that's a really good call out because even, okay, so we do go to our tools when we're looking for answers, but we're not looking for, okay, so I look for answers in a way that's validating what I'm already feeling because everybody's got powerful intuition. Absolutely everybody. So I want that validation. But then, like you mentioned, there's also maybe days where you're not sure exactly what you should be doing. So
Mhm.
you look to astrology to see maybe what the energy kind of feels like. And then they assist you in pointing you in a direction, but that direction is always within yourself.
Right. It's that's why it's a tool. It's kind of like
Right.
using a hammer to put a nail in a wall. You wouldn't use your fist, you use a tool. And so it is. And I get the other side of it. I do because the two sides of this is, one, it helps grow and it helps you kind of get to the truth of things for yourself. But the other is it does become a crutch. And it does become something where it's like we even had, and I'll just give this story because I was talking with Natalie about it ahead of time, and we had a person comment on something on one of our social media accounts about runes. And well, our ancestors didn't use them, and why should we, and all this. But then when I go and look at this user site, they mentioned something around sticks and stones, and I thought, well, what the heck do you think a rune is? I mean, it's put onto whether it's a piece of wood, which is an element, or a stone, which is an element, or which is earth-based. And so I'm not, it's a sigil and it's an alphabet or sigil slash alphabet, depending upon kind of where you look at that. And I didn't think about it at the time that way, or I would have put a philosophical question back. But yeah. So I don't get I don't know. I don't know. That one spun me up.
Yeah, so and that's a good call out because people often don't understand like what it is, how it's come about. So if you look at the history of the tools, like there's a long history with folks doing this.
Hmm.
But you also have those folks who so tools are going to highlight your intuition. They're going to highlight the energy. They are you. You are representing, like it's your use of them that really kind of pulls everything together. And people should try to stay away from turning them into the intuition for them. Like, I don't know how to say this in a good way. So keep looking inside, keep doing the shadow work, keep listening to your inner voice, keep watching for synchronicities and signs. Don't stop doing that because now you're trusting your tarot to tell you every day what you need to do.
Right.
Like
Yes,
it's
I
in
agree.
addition to who you are, not in
It,
a replacement.
yes, it's an enhancement. It's an
Yes.
enhancement to your intuition, right? It's an enhancement to what is already your guides are just okay. Because a lot of people, they don't hear that message for whatever reason, or they don't think they're hearing that message and they're not opening up to what spirit is saying in one way. And we love the tools, but we also love just sitting in meditation or just in dream work or whatever, listening for the message or watching for it. And so those tools can be really helpful when you haven't got to that point yet.
Well, right. And they do validate. Like
Yeah.
if you think about the person who says that they can't figure out the lotto numbers. Okay, so lotto numbers aren't meant for everybody. Not everybody's going to win the lotto.
Right.
So they do their own intuitive thing and they don't get the lotto numbers. So they
Right.
come to somebody like me or Steph who's psychic and they ask us and we're like, no, I don't get the lotto numbers either.
Uh-uh.
So they're like, okay, then I'm going to go to my tarot and the tarot doesn't give them the lotto numbers either. Well, you know what? It's because they're all saying the same thing. Like
Right.
a tool is just another form of validation. Steph and I are tools when people use us as their psychics or mediums, or when we do real estate clearings or house clearings or hauntings or any service we provide is
Yeah.
we are a tool for you.
Yes. It's a conduit.
Yes.
It's a conduit for a message from spirit. And so when you are using those tools, then it gives you the opportunity because every day that card could mean you could get the same card, you could get the same rune, but each day you're going to perceive it a little differently. There's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of a different message, and there's a reason for that because spirit's coming through or source or God and letting you know this is what you're supposed to know. And you
Right.
know this, I'm just going to reaffirm it for you. It's an affirmation, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about effort. So imagine, um, okay, just being who Steph and I are, we use a lot of different tools. We've got astrology and tapping in. Like, anyway, we're not going to go to the list because everybody knows we've got a list. So imagine if we were sitting in astrology, like if we sat down on when I'm doing the card of the day, and I'm like, I'm going to pull a tarot for today, which is right now I'm doing oracle cards.
Hmm.
So I look at oracle cards. So imagine if I'm like, okay, and I also talk about the sun and the moon zodiac. Just kind of that gives us a general energy of the day, right? So imagine if I open that up and I'm talking about Mars and Venus and Jupiter and where they're sitting, and if it depends on this house and if it depends on that house and what transit we're looking at. And like I might do that for myself personally, but
Hmm.
if I start pulling all of the tools that we use in, like I'm just going to get spun up in a ton of data that I may not be able to just interpret. So again, like your tools are just an interpretation, and you can absolutely use all of them if you want,
Right.
but don't get buried in them.
Well, don't go down a super big rabbit hole where one thing and you've got the astrology because the astrology, especially, yeah, Aries. Okay, example today, just in astrology, Aries is in a new moon. Great. Aries is fire, it's energy. We've got all this fun action going on. Oh, wait, halt. We are still Mercury retrograde. We're still Venus retrograde. So think about those in conjunction with as you're thinking about your Aries, right? So maybe, yeah, fire it up, but fire it up for yourself. Fire it up internally in some self-care, fire it up in growth and learning or whatever that might be. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah,
totally,
it's layered interpretation, not saying, well, Venus is in retrograde, so that's what that means. Like you have to interpret that for yourself.
you do. You absolutely have to understand, okay, I've read the text. What does that mean for me?
Right.
And where I think tools become awesome in this capacity is they do bring on a fostering of self-trust because you've
They
listened
do.
to your intuition, you've listened to your guides, you think, and then you're like, really, does this make sense for me? I don't understand. And then you pull an oracle card or you see our, the daily reading that you're doing and I, I'll be jumping in and doing some more of those here too. But you see those and go, okay, message received because something in that message was, yep. There it is. And so it helps you to build your own self-trust. And sometimes that's great for people just getting started. Other times, if you're like us and you've been at this for decades, we still love them. I love tools.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Love them all.
Yeah, and it is great validation. But like the harrowing story, I guess, is us just saying you've got to learn to trust yourself. Like you can't have a fear of being responsible for your decisions. And there are so many people who live with that fear. Like, if I do this and it's wrong, everybody's got to live a little more outcome be damned
Yes.
and trust themselves. But tools I think help with that, but it can also totally take away your responsibility, but you can't let it.
Right. It's a tool. You wouldn't let the hammer run your wall. I mean, that's really weird, but
Build you all. Yeah, the hammer doesn't get to decide where the nail goes.
right. You decide. There you go.
Right.
That was it.
I'm
Perfect.
with you.
God, thank God we're sisters and think alike. But yes, it's that's exactly right. You're deciding. Even though even astrology, the stars are written and it's got this path for you, etc., that does not mean it's fate. That is means that's the chart, that's what it says. Now what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with that? How are you going to take that and make it all on the good side, right? And just own that. Um Cards are the same way. Some days it's going to say, ooh, or lunar days or whatever it might be. They'll say, oh, today's a good day for relaxation. Well, if you had a lot planned and you're feeling in the mood, how do you feel about it instinctually? If you still feel like, I'm having a great day, then go, right? I mean, you have to go with what your body and your gut is telling you.
Right. So I think kind of another way I'm seeing that is like when we do the card of the day or we do divination or rune or whatever we're doing for that day, we don't say that you should buy a lotto ticket or
Buy a house.
you should change jobs.
Right.
Like we aren't telling you an outcome, we're telling you what the energy is.
Yes,
So you have to look at all tools that way. You just got to get the information from them, and you still have to make that discerning fact about how you're going to move forward with your day.
absolutely. It's a way of seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's a way of looking at it and saying, okay, um, so say it is the card and you pull this card or you're watching the daily from us and you look at that and go, okay, I knew I was feeling like this but that card added one more layer to it and that's interesting. And that makes sense for me. So sometimes it just adds an extra little thing to think about, right? Just like
Right.
we read, I mean, you read good debatable news articles and you think the same thing. You're like, oh, that gives me something to think about. Great. It's giving you something to think about. And I get the crutch and the
Hmm.
over-reliance, um,
Avoidance.
avoidance.
Like, I don't want to be responsible for my own decisions. I'm going to say my tarot card made me do it. No. I
Wouldn't that
mean,
be great? But the stars said I have to, blah, blah. I'm not allowed to do
right?
anything right now because of blah. It's like,
I was born under a Cancer sun and only my home matters.
right, right. It's retrograde right now, so I can't work for 3 weeks. No. No, no. I'm pretty sure that there's not an employer alive that's going to say, "Oh, okay, I understand." So,
And those are laughable examples,
they
but
are, but it's the point. It's all that kind of thing. So you have to do take that. And I think I'm going to add to it with the fear of making mistakes,
yes.
right? Because I think people turn these tools into something that is, like you said, it's dictionary. It's supposed to be exactly how I read it. This is how it's supposed to go. And so then you go, I can't do that. Like you just said, I can't because my card said.
Right.
It's a fear
Right.
of stepping outside the lines. And it's like they didn't draw the lines. It's it's a suggestion, it's an advice. It's based on your energy that you put into you're shuffling the cards, you're throwing the stones, you're pulling your rune, you're whatever it is you're doing, you're looking at your chart, and then you have to intuit on that and decide from there.
Well, and I think that brings up a really important conversation though, is because a lot of people you hit that word into it or you listen to your intuition or like in addition to the tools. So they've already kind of found a path to spirituality and they're like, yeah, I kind of like this. I kind of like the way it makes me feel. I understand. Like when you work with tarot decks
Yeah.
and it has a 78 card meaning, like everything kind of, you're able to connect and understand it.
Uh-huh.
So then you tell that person who's just recently picked up, cards or a pendulum or what have you, and now you're telling them you need to add a little intuition. And that's where it kind of gets a little bit scary because a lot of people have been told all their life, you don't have intuition, that what you're hearing is not what you're seeing, and that's not real. And then
Right.
so it becomes a really heavy topic because now I can't trust my cards.
Mm,
Now, now I'm looking at my cards going, oh, but I have to come up with something about that. And, it's just that developing piece, and your cards are there to support you.
right.
But developing your intuition is, I mean, that's like the next step.
Yeah, that's
But
valid.
I don't know what to say about people who aren't like fully developed intuitively and they're using these tools. I can see how the answer may be different to them,
Right.
where they're going to be a little bit more reliant on the cards because they don't yet fully understand themselves or how they feel or how to meditate and listen or, ask themselves those internal questions or do that shadow work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not like debating it, but I'm seeing the difficulties that could come from it.
Yes. And that makes sense. Um, because and it's funny, we had our lunar workshop last night, and even talking about shadow work, I mean, we had one of our members that, hey, shadow work, and they knew it as something else. And
Right.
so, it is having sometimes a learning moment, right? And talking with people more. And intuition, you're right, is scary because you're absolutely correct in saying most people, some not, but most people grow up programmed that there are no this, there isn't that. And so when you're really young, you're wide open, you've got your imaginary friends, you've
Hmm.
got all these different things in your life, you see everything and it's wide open. And then we're taught, oh, no, you don't. You're going to be in this lane right here. And this doesn't exist. And this doesn't exist. And this doesn't exist. And
And
this,
really what they're taking away is the trust of yourself.
right,
You are not allowed to trust yourself anymore.
right, right. Because that's how they were raised. And that's how they were raised, and so on and so on. And that's what everybody around you was taught. And so then pretty soon, when you do start thinking outside of literally a box, right?
Hmm.
Because you've been put in this. So you start thinking outside that box. And oh, you're one of those. Oh, she's crazy. He's crazy. They do this. And it's like, no, I'm listening. What about gut instinct, maternal instinct? I mean, what do you think that is, folks? It's intuition. And so
Yeah.
but it is when you're very new and you're just reading cards for
Well,
the
and
first
it's
time, like
just
you said.
starting to validate how you feel
Right.
and it feels like magic.
Yeah, it
And
does.
you feel like you are performing magic tricks because you're like, how could that possibly be? How could this tarot card understand how I feel right now?
Right.
Because you haven't yet learned to trust yourself. So it's
Mhm.
hard to use a tool and point back. It's kind of until you start really stepping into your intuition and developing that type of thing, tools are going to be really powerful.
Yeah.
And maybe you do need to trust and rely on their response because like
Yeah.
I'm talking out of both sides of the debate now.
That's okay. But the thing is, that's valid because in trusting both sides, like, okay, so I am trusting the card, but guess what that means? I'm trusting myself
But you
because,
don't know that.
right, exactly. That's just it. You don't know it because you haven't stepped into that part of it yet. And you do, and it is magical. It absolutely is. All tools are just magic, but so is the hammer. Whoever created that, thank you, right? So is a drill. So is I mean, all
Right.
tools have a different magical. It's just that some are spiritually magical and we feel very connected to higher powers. And for me, holding a crystal for you. Okay, now we're in our place, right? You're centered. Burning candles brings in our elements. So all of those
Right.
different pieces, but they're all tools. They're all tools. And it's just that some of them are deeply earth-based and some of them are created by humans, like tarot cards. But that came from an image and something from their guides as to why we need to draw this out, why this needs to happen. So, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah.
So what we're kind of saying is we're on both sides of the debate, and you need to trust the tools if you're not sure how to check in with yourself as you're developing. Yes, trust your tools, trust them to lead you on that path,
Uh-huh.
but also keep developing your own like insights and shadow work and like all of the work that goes along with that.
Right,
Because then you add more tools and you get more validation and it becomes less guidance related, more validation related.
right, right. And I think I would suggest for folks that are really big in the tools, and like I said, we use them daily. I still
Oh
do.
yeah. We love tools.
Love tools.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I ask a specific question, I look at my rune, I look and say, okay, what's that really mean for the question I asked?
Hmm.
And then I journal. And that's because that's my thing. That's what I love to do. That's what you love to do. That's what we love to share. If you feel like you're so hung up on it and you're like, say, for example, you are using tarot, get away from tarot and find an oracle deck. And I will tell you, we're going to be selling because our friend Bo Maxwell has a beautiful deck called Beyond the Gate. And it's beautiful because there are no words and there is no book. And there is no better way to still feel like you're incorporating a tool and having something that you're looking at and asking this question and connecting with your guides. And yet, you have to discern, what does this mean to me? So it's helping you to build your intuition at the same time, which is ultimately the goal. And then the tools become an enhancement, and a gift and a thing that you get to incorporate because you choose to, because it's like, I want more.
Hmm.
I am stuck in this question and I'm going to stick this out here because it's going to just add something else, like I said earlier, for me to consider, another thought process to it. And so I think doing something like that is a great way to boost your intuition. And we're actually going to be selling her cards on our site because they are just
Yeah,
magnificent.
they're amazing. And it is a great first tool because, like I said, when you go into tarot, like you get those, I'm throwing those on the ground. So I'll talk about these because I have 800 pairs laying here. Um, but each card means the same thing. An
Yeah,
ace of wands is an ace of wands is an ace of wands across all the decks. But with
right.
Bo's deck, it is a really great place to start because there's no memorization. I'm not going back to school. I'm not learning what the aces are beginnings and that, kings are like, I don't have to memorize that.
No,
I just have to fall into the card and look at what yeah. So it's a great starter tool, even though it feels really advanced.
right.
Yeah.
And it's one that you'll still use even when you are more advanced with your intuition. You'll
Hmm.
still reference it because the fact is, you could draw the same card out of an oracle deck like this one. And I have a whole bunch of oracle decks, as do you. And I love oracle decks. That's more my jam. And I can pull the same one 3 days in a row and laugh and be like, well, of course, because I'm in the same headspace for 3 days. Hello, my guides are
Yeah.
telling
Pick
me,
it
get
up.
out of the
What are
same
you not,
headspace,
what are you
right? I'm
not
going to keep
getting?
giving you the same card, dummy. But at the same time, it's also, I'm going to see something different each time.
Right.
And, why is yes, it's okay. It's repeating what it is yesterday, but I missed this. Okay. That takes me down a different rabbit hole, right? And that might change my course of action on one little task that I was thinking about. So it's not that I'm following the direction of the cards. I'm taking what I'm pulling from those in my own mind, right? In my intuition, and then moving beyond that.
Yeah.
It's more about your personal experience with that tool.
Yeah. And finding the tools that you like, the tools that do validate you,
Absolutely.
that give you that exciting feeling and like you really like working with them. Those are the tools you want to stick with, no matter if they become a validation or a guidance for you.
Absolutely. Like tarot decks. Raider White, the Raider White
Right
deck,
away.
right
Yeah.
away. Thank you. Is the baseline, and I have it here somewhere, but it's the baseline because it's the original. It's the tarot deck that everybody references all the time because it's old school. I never use it. I own it. which is more.
Only because we felt like we had to, because it was like
And
the original conversion into what tarot is from
right,
cartomancy and like all of the, yeah,
right. And it's almost like to honor the original path, but I never use that deck. I don't resonate with it at all. I don't, the art, nothing. There's nothing about that deck that thrills me. But if somebody wanted me to read using that deck, I would.
you could, yeah.
Absolutely. And but for me, it's like I said, I've got the Light Seer deck, which I think is what you were holding up, and
Yeah,
some
I threw my crow deck on the floor. I only have two actually sitting here, but
yeah, for the tarot. And then I've got the Crow deck like you as well. And then I've got a few others.
and then we've got some shamanic, like
Shamanic
dream
type.
and
That
all
one.
kinds of tarot or oracle decks.
I
Yeah.
got an I Ching deck that I love. I've got a couple. So I've got Bo's deck, of course, Beyond the Gate, which is
Hers
beautiful.
is coming into cycle for me to start because I'm using for card of the day and I cycle around.
Uh-huh.
So hers actually starts next week, which is great timing for us to start selling on our site.
Yeah, perfect.
Mhm.
Perfect. I've got another one that's also wordless. And because I love that. And that was something that we got with working with Bo is reminding us of the value of getting away from the words. And it's not even that you reference the little booklet that comes with your deck, but sometimes you just get hung up on a word on a card. It might
For
say
sure.
ruby, and then pretty soon you're just like, oh, what is supposed to be beautiful today? May not have anything to do with that. So you gotta, by not having any words, anything, it's an image, it's it helps you to practice that as well and to really get into what is this meaning for me personally. Because every
Mhm.
single card, even though we do a daily card and it's tarot, for example, that tarot might mean the same thing in terms of the book, but what it's going to mean for each person that's hearing it that day is going to be very different.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Exactly.
yeah. So yeah, we're big on tools.
We
So
are.
sorry
Overall,
for the
don't use them as a crutch. Use them as something
exactly.
that can guide you, that resonate with you, that validate how you feel.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't validate, okay, so your tool, okay, so you sit down and it doesn't validate how you feel. You really need, that's just inviting you to look back about how you feel. Are you sure? It's
Right.
not saying you're wrong. It's saying check again
Yeah.
and make sure you feel strongly about how you're going to step forward. Your tool's not saying, no, 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 you're doing it wrong. It's not saying you need to go this direction. It's just inviting you to look again.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Just remember it's a tool for learning too. So it's they're beautiful. We use them all the time. They are our little magical elements in our homes, but it is still something to help you grow.
Right.
And so use it that way. That's what they're giving it to you for, is to use it in that capacity. So buy the tools or that really resonate with you.
Yeah. They beautify your process, they beautify your life,
Right.
but you are in control.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. But boom. I think that's it.
That is it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we agree. Don't crutch them. Don't let them be your only source. Don't let those be they
If you
can't.
need journal prompts, let us know. We'll send you some.
Right.
That will
Right.
help you.
Right. It's like a daily horoscope when you read it in the paper. You read it, but it doesn't mean you go out and it says, "Oh, today you have to stay home and take a bubble bath." And you don't call your boss and say, "My horoscope said I have to blah blah blah." You take that and go, all right, so today's the day I got to take it a little easier, maybe a little self-care, little reflection, maybe avoid some people. Gotcha. Message received, right? So, yeah, and we're happy to give you journal prompts, daily prompts, whatever, but
We got them.
we've got all sorts of different things on the site. Hit it. And shortly, very shortly, we will have Bo's decks up there as well. So if you
Mm-hmm.
want a really beautiful deck that is used for Oracle and used for intuition building, we'll have it. And we're going to offer it on our site at the same site. We're going to offer it on our page at the same site that Bell site.
What are
Bo,
you trying to say to all of us?
right? For her members, if they are members of her Sage community, they would receive the same price on our site.
I gotcha. All right. You got the whole sentence out. Very good job.
Yes. All right.
Awesome. We
All
need some
right.
clearing tools. I'll give you, I'll intentionally set some quartz for you.
Really, would you? Yeah, I'd love that. I got to get, like I said earlier, me and my shadow work have to have a conversation. So there's going to be a lot more of that later. But for now, we'll wrap it up. And don't forget, hit immersivespirit.com. We have all of our workshops for our member community on IS Town Square. Please check out IS Town Square. It's still $7 a month through middle of June. And we do have 4 workshops a month. Plus, we have free content for our members out there and a lot of great conversation. So we'd love to see you join our community. If you have any questions about it, we would love to hear from you um,
It's going to double in price
in June.
on June 21st. So not kidding. And
Yep.
like the value from, yeah, there's a lot of
And you'll
value
be
if you
locked
join
in at
before that.
$7 for life, folks. So
Yeah,
where else are you going to get that kind of content and the things that we do for $7 a month? You're not getting that on
I
any other
know.
site. You're just
No.
not. I know because I'm on several other sites. You're not. So that said, we will wrap it up. Have an amazing weekend. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Natalie.
And from high heels to happy feels, from Immersive Spirit, we'll say see you soon. Bye bye.